Hey, good morning. It's Tuesday, April 12th. Thanks so much for being here today. As you know, we're in this week that culminates in our celebration of the resurrection, this coming Lord's Day. And I want to focus our thinking about why this is such an important time. I alluded to the fact yesterday, this is the most pivotal time in all of human history. Not even so much for a religious standpoint, but for humanity's standpoint. Because it's the only place that gives us hope to deal with individual struggles that we have, the sins that we have, the things that we deeply regret, the emotions that gnaw at us, the hurt that's been done to us, the hurt we've done to other people. This one singular event, which can't be captured by a day, but indeed spans the entire scope of human history, is the resurrection. It's what we call Easter, but it's about the resurrection. And to get the best understanding of how significant this is, I'm going to go back to the garden, because it's such a great model for us. Because there we see in vivid fashion how everything went off the rails, why things so horribly fell apart, and why we continue in those same kind of patterns. So in the resurrection, we see the fall. And as I mentioned yesterday, and I'll keep on mentioning, it's not simply what happened to Eve. Rather, it's about Adam and then Eve following the desires of his own heart as opposed to the directions of God. Actions follow desires. Adam's problem was not information. Eve's problem was not information. What they both erred and sinned in doing, they knew full well that God didn't want them to do it. Adam received from the very voice of God in a personal way, don't eat of two trees and protect and guard this garden. And when the snake and the serpent came in and challenged those things, Adam failed to protect, and he failed to protect his wife, and he failed to obey the clear command of God, allowing Eve the opportunity to be tempted, and she fell. But they both fell not because they so much did the wrong thing, but first they thought and desired the wrong thing. And it's our desires that we need cleansing, we need redemption. So what's happening this Sunday is that we are redeemed from those desires. We are redeemed from the sins that we have because Jesus, who was tempted at every point as we are, he didn't cave externally to sin and do the wrong thing, but he also didn't cave internally and cave into desires. See, we can have desires that nobody knows about, but they're still wrong, and we can't hide them. But Jesus, his internal desires, they never wavered as well. His desires were always bringing honor to God. His actions always brought honor to God. His life brought honor to God. That's why it's so important we not just focus on rules and regulations, but on the desires of our heart. Are they what God has called us to? Jesus, first of all, comes and redeems us from the horrible ugliness of our desires and allows us to place new ones in place. So we're no longer enslaved by those desires that lead us away from the obvious traps of sin that we know are wrong. It's our desires that wage war within us that make us think, well, I can make an exception here, or I need this, or this is important to me. Well, surely it's not going to work out as badly as it might, but of course it does. Jesus frees us from the slavery of desires. When we want to do something and we keep on being pulled back in, we know it's wrong, but our desires pull us on. Well, at the resurrection, he redeemed those desires. What gives the redemption power and credibility and weight is that the resurrection means that what we've been redeemed from, what Jesus did in redeeming is by being perfect. That's just not enough. That had to come at a price. And it's the currency of redemption, so to speak, is the resurrection. It backs it up. It makes what Jesus did have true power. Paul says in Corinthians, if only for this life we have hope in Christ, we are to be pitied more than all men, all people. Our hope is not grounded on performing well. Our hope is not grounded in even having good desires. Our hope is grounded that Jesus lived that life for me, paid the penalty for that, and then by being raised from the dead by the Father, that is what God called us to. That's where our hope is. So we have the sin, the mess, and the desires. We have the redemption from that. And then that redemption is backed up, paid in full, made real by the resurrection. And that's what we're celebrating. And that's what our hope is. That the resurrection of Christ, that power, is available to us. We're not looking backwards, we're looking forwards. I can have new desires. I don't have to be enslaved by those things that kind of strangle on me and entangle me, almost like an octopus's coils dragging us back. Rather, I can be redeemed. And since I'm redeemed, the power of the resurrection sets me free because Christ has made it work. He's made resurrection something that is available to us and gives teeth to redemption, gives power to redemption. And that's what we're celebrating. And that's a beautiful thing. We don't have to be entangled by what was, but we can embrace what we have in Christ. We're going to keep thinking about that. That's the thought for this day. Thanks so much for being here. Check us out everydaytalk247.com. If you haven't subscribed, turn on post notifications. These videos will come right to you. Rejoice this week that you've been freed from the desires that entangle you. And you can now embrace new desires. You give us true hope because of the power of the resurrection. You have a great day, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.